There's a serious dark side to music and acting and all. Like you're probably well
100%.
aware of it, obviously, right? Yeah.
Well, I've lived it. I've been there.
Are we allowed to go there, or
Yeah,
is
we
there
can go. I'm happy
Illuminati
to
going?
talk about it
Well,
if you want to.
I'm game if you are.
I don't want to bring the vibe down, but I do want to mention it because it's part of my life and it changed the trajectory of my life,
Yeah. Well, let's talk to it
Because,
because it's
yeah,
definitely something that people need to be aware of. It's specifically with like, abuse victims and people that have kind of had that trauma in their life. But again, it's one of these things that when it comes to music, acting, it just seems to always rear its ugly head.
and yeah, so this was at a school at Emmaus College and in Melbourne, in
Yeah.
the eastern suburbs, and I was there for to year 7 to year 10, and I heard that he was touching girls and things like that. I thought, well, that's never going to happen to me.
Hey,
Hey,
Natalie,
how's it going?
it's going great. How about you?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Really
That's
good.
all right. Thanks for coming on the show.
That's all right. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to meet you. How are you feeling?
Yeah, much better.
Yeah.
Yeah, much better.
Is there something going around, do you think? Like I've of hearing left, right, and center about people just getting absolutely walloped by something all of a sudden. That I never really get sick, but when I do, it's like an 11 out of 10 slap in the face, and it just
Yeah.
brings me down for 2 days, and then I'm kind of like good after that.
Yeah, well, we're the same. Like me and my son, we just don't really get sick.
Yeah,
But
right.
when we do, we're out for like a good 5 days.
Yeah, really. Okay. You
But
get smashed.
hardly, the last time we got sick was I think 2022 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
really.
that was
That's a good one.
bad. That was really bad. That was 2 weeks, and that was hardcore. I reckon my gut feeling is that where are you? Where are you?
New South Wales, Wollongong, so just south of
Wollongong.
Sydney.
Oh, so that's not too far from here. It's still
Mm.
New South Wales. So you're probably getting the same kind of atmosphere that we get in Tweed, possibly.
Sure. Yeah.
Because I don't know what you're feeling with the weather, but here it's the most bizarre thing because it's like cold, really cold, like ice. And
Mm.
we're sneezing and stuff. Like there's something in my nose, and then all of a sudden, 10 o'clock, the sun's out, and we're fine.
Yeah, sure.
So it's
Um,
something in the air, is what I think.
I don't doubt it. I don't suspect
Yeah.
that there would be anything other than not anything other than I shouldn't say, but we do our skies get smashed, and I can see like when you see the flight trails and all the rest of it, the flight paths, they run up and down the coast all day long, and so it's kind of like
You can
I
tell.
definitely think it's something,
Yeah.
and from what I've looked into it, there's a little bit of like um EMF, radiation frequencies. There's something else
A lot.
sort of that
A
that
lot
is
happening.
afoot as well. Yeah, so there's a lot going on. I think our immune systems just like, just get overwhelmed, and then eventually they just sort of spew out all this stuff. And yeah, do you have
And
any
then
sort of
we
like little remedies and stuff like that? And
I do. I work
that's
with
all.
homeopathic remedies.
Yeah,
Do you know
lovely.
about
That's right.
homeopathics?
Yeah, absolutely. I
Yeah.
just had Melissa Kupsch on the show a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. She's a awesome human being, but right into the homeopaths.
Homeopath. Oh,
Have
I
you ever heard
swear
of
by
Dr. Isaac?
homeopathic remedies.
Yeah, yeah. I've got a little like home kit coming my way, and I'm going to book in
Oh,
for a
great.
session, with a homeopath and all the rest of it, and try and sort out some stuff, because it kind of the thing that I love about it, it goes much deeper than just the remedies. It's kind of like
You find
working at
out
a
what the actual root of the cause of what's happening is. And that's
yeah,
so
that's right.
important.
Yeah, with anything that I do, like on an emotional level, I find that there's always a link to some kind of event or like who knows
Trauma or
what to
past
call it,
thing.
yeah,
Yep.
whatever it is, but
Yep.
something links back to almost like a stored memory, and then that precedes, everything else. And so you can be treating symptoms all you like, and then all of a sudden I do this sort of modality, and then it just frees up, like that little portion of thing, and then like an onion, just work through the next layer and the next
Exactly.
layer.
Once that part's healed, it doesn't come back, and then it opens up another layer of something else. And
Yeah, and then on we go, with the
yes,
yeah.
and that's why I like it. And I've got specific homeopathic remedies I use, and I learned a lot during COVID. So I found one for COVID. I found one for all this stuff that's going on. So
Yeah.
mercury, you can get mercury, which will help.
Yeah,
Mercury,
lovely.
magnesium, and there's so many you can get. Yeah.
Yeah, good stuff. Well, I'd be keen to sort of get your view because what I've learned about you, just sort of getting a feel, not only just for your music,
Yeah.
but just like your vibe in general. Like, how you probably get this a lot where people see you, for example, like on Australian Idol and then The Voice and all the rest of it, and they're kind of like that's their sort of pinpoint of the
Perception.
timeline. Yeah, like the conception of like your career, but then it's sort of like that 20-year overnight success type of thing. Am I sort of on the right
Yeah,
track?
that's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've heard like you're into jazz and you're sort of like, you grew up playing the trumpet, which is just fucking pretty wild. So anyway, I'll hand it over to you. I wouldn't mind knowing like how that all started. I come from a musical background. My dad's a muso and
Yeah,
uh,
right.
it's sort of just something that's kind of like in your blood and eventually it spills out into other little creative avenues.
Yeah, well, it's really interesting because I've got a 6-year-old son, and I have no idea or memory of anything like as a child because I did so much from such a young age that I don't really remember. And this is going to sound really sad, but I don't really remember much of like my childhood. I
Wow.
remember going into dance classes when I was 3, and I was doing tap and ballet and jazz. And then I was on the microphone singing by the time I was 3. Like just at home, I'd get the camera microphone and just go up to the camera and just da 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 make up my own song, just for fun. And then when I remember my mum saying to me when I was about 3 that I was a star.
Mhm.
That's what she said to me. And she said that I was very special and that I was going to be a star. And she
Wow.
said that she knew that from when I was conceived in her belly. She knew. I mean, to me, that's crazy because I would never have known that about my son.
Mhm.
So I think that part of it was my mum wanting it as well, right? Because she
Mhm.
was a singer too. And then she stopped singing when she got pregnant with me, and she was only 21.
Wow.
So I couldn't imagine having a baby at 21. Like, it's just, I don't know, it's so young. It's like you're a baby yourself.
Mm.
So we were, me and my mum became really close at that time. And so she nurtured my talents as soon as I was born. And
Wow.
so when I got to about 7, so I was, hang on, I've got to backtrack a little bit. Oh yeah, I remember now. So I was at school, and I remember when I got to year 7, and I was really excited to go to high school because I've heard the music departments there are fun and you get to play instruments, and so I was just looking forward to that.
Mhm.
But it was just so boring. It was like recorder, and remember the recorder, and
Of course.
just choir, and I thought, oh, this is going to be, I might not do music.
Mm.
But by that stage, I already had a film and television diploma by the time I was 12 because I was doing acting and I wanted to be an actress. That was my dream as a child. So, do you remember Jennifer Kite? at all? The journalist that was on television? She was like a host on the news. I think it was Channel
That
7 News.
name rings a bell. Yeah, for sure.
So she was my idol, and I wanted to be her. So I used to get my brother and sister and my mum to, I used to write scripts to make movies and make commercials, and I used to get them to direct, like put the cameras on, and I'd be the person reading the news about what was happening in the world, you know.
Oh, wow.
So I was doing that, um, and then my first acting job was being a mini Jennifer Kite on the Steve Vizard show, because
Wow. That sounds like a
that was the
waste.
segment that they put on. So when my mum put me into acting, that was the first job that I got.
Mm.
So it's funny how everything started for me so young, so young. And then I did acting jobs like for movies, and I did neighbours extra work and flying doctors, and so I was constantly working from when I was like 10.
Yeah. Okay.
So when I talk to my son and I'm like, do you know what? When I was 8 years old, I was already working. He was like, huh?
Yeah. That's it.
You know, he looks at me like, what are you talking about?
I had a tax file number. What are you
Yeah,
talking about?
that's right. I had equity. I was an equity member, you know. So music was like a secondary thing for me. Music was became like a muse to me because I had a troubled childhood. My parents were not getting along at home, so music was my hideaway, and it was my safe place. So as soon as we got a new music teacher at school that brought in all the instruments, I wanted to try them. I wanted to try trumpet, piano, saxophone, you know, everything.
Hmm.
And so I just learnt how to play instruments really quickly. And then I became obsessed with it. And I practiced and practiced for hours and hours and hours and hours every day because I didn't want to be anywhere else. I didn't want to face what was going on at home. I didn't want to, you know, do that. So that's how I became obsessed with the music. And then I
Yeah.
got a
Wow.
scholarship to do jazz at the Victorian College of the Arts. And that's where I really honed in on jazz. But then I really wanted to learn classical, so I did both. So they let me do
True.
both, which was pretty cool. And I
Yeah.
had two of
Wow.
the best teachers, and I learned everything I know from that school. Like that was 2 years of my life that really, really changed me
Mm.
in a
Did
good
you ever
way.
break away from music and sort of follow the traditional route? Did anyone ever talk you out of pursuing a career in the sort of arts, so to speak, because of like how difficult it is, or anything like that? I know like a lot of people
I never found it difficult, you know. Like,
really.
yeah, like when I was 17, I remember um, one of my best friends, he was a drummer, and he said, Nat, you need to start a band. And I'm like, how do you even do that? He's like, just we'll go to a studio, we'll just record there. And
Mm.
I'm like, oh, is it that easy? So we did. We just went to a studio, we got the band. But when you're young, no one cares about money. They just want to go in and they just want to make the sound awesome. It was all about the love of music.
Mm.
And so when I got paid for a gig at 17 years old at De Beers in Melbourne,
Yeah.
I was like, what? $70 each on a Thursday night for 2 hours to have fun and play music? This is like
That's
what I want to do for the rest of my life,
Yeah.
you know?
Wow.
But because I did have some trauma that happened to me at the school, at the music school, no, at the high school, sorry, it did affect me. And so I was my own worst enemy. I was the one sabotaging myself.
Right.
So when I got out of VCA, I was so confused and I didn't know what I wanted to do because I was still being stalked by this pedophile, and it was just like
Wow.
crazy. Yeah, I went through hell, absolute hell, when I was a
Wow. Really?
teenager. Yes,
Wow. Wow.
yes,
Because your industry, I mean, I don't want to skip past the
no,
footnotes of the story, but
yeah,
your industry's pretty rife with all of that sort of stuff. They're
yeah,
like there's a serious dark side to music and acting and all. Like you're probably well
100%.
aware of it, obviously, right? Yeah.
Well, I've lived it. I've been there.
Boom.
Yeah.
Really? Are we allowed to go there, or
Yeah,
is
we
there
can go. I'm happy
Illuminati
to talk
behind?
about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
If you want to.
I'm game if you are.
Yeah.
I once, well, you can continue on and tell me more of your story because I guess, like I said at the outset of the conversation, like I really only know of you from Australian Idol onwards.
Yeah.
And then you sort of disappeared and then come back on The Voice and
Yeah.
honestly, like since then, I really don't like I don't watch TV. I don't really get involved
Yeah.
in, you
I
know what I mean?
get
Like I'm
that.
kind of gone full like a 180 away from all of that. So
Yeah.
I don't really keep track. But I do know I do like to keep track of artists over the time where I remember a particular song or a genre of music and then I go, oh man, like that John Farnham song was like that was a classic. I remember singing that, and then I would go
Yes.
back and
There is
sort of like
that
whack that onto
nostalgia.
Spotify. Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
Hey, Ceberano, like you got
Yes.
all of these like really good acts.
Yes.
Southern Sons, like all of those sort of like good Aussie acts that were just great in the 80s and 90s, and you just, I don't know, dismiss them as people have gone by, like
Yes.
these, I can ramble on like so many good artists. So
I
eventually
know.
you kind of like claw back and then you go, man, I've got to add all of this nostalgia back to my playlist so I can,
Absolutely. You got to
relive my
get
youth,
to the heart, don't you?
Yeah, yeah,
It's
absolutely.
so
Yeah.
important.
Such a good
Yeah,
vibe. But anyway, like,
definitely.
yeah,
I don't want to bring the vibe down, but I do want to mention it because it's part of my life and it changed the trajectory of my life,
yeah. Well, let's talk to it
Because,
because it's
yeah,
definitely something that people need to be aware of. I mean,
yeah,
yeah,
I
I
agree.
hear so much about it, and I
Oh,
talk to a lot about it on this show.
yeah,
But
right.
it's specifically with like, abuse victims and people that have kind of had that trauma in their life. But again, it's one of these things that when it comes to music, acting, it just seems to always rear its ugly head.
Mm,
And yeah, anyway, go on.
it's
So how did
absolutely
this?
true. And yeah, so this was at a school at Emmaus College and in Melbourne, in
Yeah,
the eastern suburbs, and I was there for to year 7 to year 10, and that's when it all happened. Then, so when that
right.
new music teacher came in, I was looking for, I guess I was looking for a father figure. I was looking for someone to look up to, and because music was such a huge part of my life, I was in the music room a lot. So
Yeah,
when I heard that he was touching girls and things like that, I thought, well, that's never going to happen to me. If he does that to me, I'll tell him where to go.
sure.
And when it did happen to me, I did tell him where to go, and I told him, you're not allowed to do that. And I went to the counsellor, and we all went, all the girls, I got them all together. We all went,
Mhm.
and they did nothing. They put a window on the door of the room. And so what do we all think? Oh, well then it's okay then. You are allowed to do that. It is kind of normal. No one, do you know what, you see
Yeah,
you know what I mean? As a child, we, as children, we just like accept what adults do
mm,
after we voice it once and then nothing happens. It's like, oh, well, subconsciously you just go about your business,
yeah,
you know?
sure.
But he also groomed my mum. He told her how special I was, how amazing I was, and over time, she let me do things with him. And so I'm thinking, okay, this is normal. This is even though I knew it wasn't. I knew deep down something wasn't right the whole time. And I would freeze, every time something happened, And so it became like, I became like very brainwashed in thinking that this man is going to be my boyfriend. He's like 48 years old and I'm like 13. And this man is going to he's going to marry me and he's going to make my whole life amazing with music. And, it was like that.
Wow.
And Yeah, I can talk about it now because I'm healed from it, you know. But gosh, ask me 8 months ago, I probably not could not have this conversation. But I'm happy to talk about it now because a lot of people are talking about it, and I think it does need to come out. And so anyway, I ended up telling my mum ended up calling the police because I ended up telling her because I was a complete mess. And it turns out that he has been doing this. He is a sex offender on the sex offenders list now. His name is Zygmunt Sokolowski. And he is still alive. He's out there somewhere, God knows where. But he is Darren Hinch, who just passed away. He's he was a journalist, and he called out Sokolowski and did this big article about him and stuff. After I did my article in 2020, really? He then did one because another girl or two girls came out and took him to court or something, but then he left the country and then got a different name, and you know, so he would be, I would say, late 70s, 80s now. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so we found out a lot about him, and it turns out that he'd been doing this since 1986, and I wasn't the only one. And then when I came out and did my article with The Age, 25 other people came out and told their story, and I got to hear some of the other people's stories, and I'm like, wow, he made me feel like I was the only one. But he did that to so many people. You know, it's such a it's such a evil thing, and so I didn't realize that it affected me that much. I thought, yep, I can go to court, I can testify with the police, I can be a witness, I can still study, I can still do my music, I can still, even through the court case, he had a phone and he was tapping the phone, knocking the phone, trying to get to me. I'm trying to do my music, I'm trying to, you know, just pretend everything's okay. And I did that up until I won Australian Idol. So I was able to hold it together, do some counselling. Even though I went through depression and things like that, I was still able to function because I really just wanted to do music and I really just wanted to be me, you know? So I kept on trying. And yeah, and then after I won Australian Idol, the fame and everything, all this trauma that I didn't heal came up in so many different ways that I just didn't expect.
Is that right?
Yes. Yes. So when I got signed to Sony, I turned into this like 14-year-old girl that was really angry at every man, you know? Wow. Every man, because men are in the music industry. They're men. They're executives. They're corporates. And I just got triggered left, right, and center. And I just thought, I want to do this my way. This is not how I planned it. You know, I hated the pictures they took of me. They never asked me if I liked the photo. They just took the photo. But if I was in a good state of mind and I was stable emotionally and I had healed those traumas, I would have been okay with that. I would have been probably a little bit shitty about it, but I wouldn't have left my record label because of it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So do you think that there was a part of that was he was someone else trying to control your every move and tell you that no, this is the right direction for you? So it's sort of a similar
Oh
kind
yeah.
of vibe, where they're like, no, I know best and I'm going to look after you and all the rest of it, I'd imagine that industry is just like, we have a direction for you. And I also know that particularly if it doesn't matter whether you're a male or female, if you've got that physical appearance that is marketable and saleable and they can use an angle that is cute, sexy, whatever it may be, it's kind of like that's your angle, and we're just going to exploit this as much as possible because, yeah, it seems like when you're the hot thing, they're going to run you to the ground until they get milk every last dollar. I know that sounds terrible, but I mean,
No, but they did.
it's a
They did
business.
run me. They did run me pretty ragged. I mean, I was willing to work because I knew I was old enough to understand. I was 26. I was old enough to
Yeah.
understand that I had to work. Like this was my time and I had to work. And I was happy to do it. And I was
Mm.
strong enough to say no when I was tired. You know, I did. I stood up for myself and everything was okay. It was just the panic of being alone and
Mm.
not being nurtured. The little girl that didn't get nurtured, it didn't get the opportunity to understand what my identity actually was.
Yeah.
Because the brainwashing started when I was 12.
Sure.
So it
Were you
just
sort of
didn't.
rebelling like that kind of mind control? I mean, which is seems to be a huge part of this whole sort of process, like, do you think that was there a part of you that was, for want of a better word, malfunctioning, or like or was it almost a trauma response where you went back into the programming that you
It
thought
was a
you were
trauma
out of?
response. It
Yeah,
was
right.
complete trauma response because it's like when you've had been in an abusive relationship and
Mm,
then you think that every other person you meet is going to be like that and you see
sure.
them for that before you get to know who they really are. So if they do one thing that triggers that trauma response from the past,
Mm,
then the person is going to see it through that framework. If they haven't healed that part of them, it's like a mirror to them. And that was
yeah.
what was happening to me. So all of a sudden, I'm in a meeting with Sony, and it wasn't going the way that I thought it was going to go. And that was a massive trigger for me.
Mm,
Massive, because I didn't have control. I lost
yeah.
control.
And you've dreamed about this your whole life. So you're like, I've
Yes.
already played this out. I know exactly how it's going to end. Yeah,
Yes. I'm like, well, hang on a
sure.
sec. You told me I was a good songwriter. You told me I could write my album. And now I can't even release a Winner's Journey DVD because my fans are all asking for it. And now
Sure.
we can't. You're like, I couldn't comprehend it. I couldn't see that that was actually probably a blessing for me. You know, I didn't have anyone there telling me, Natalie, it's going to be okay. You know, whereas when I was on the show, there was a therapist on the show and she was
Uh,
amazing. So I had a few massive anxiety moments just before going on stage because it's live, it's completely live. And I was so good up until I think it was top three jazz night, and I was panicking and I was having this panic attack. I can't do it, I can't do it, I can't do it, I can't do it. It's like 10 minutes before we have to go on. And they're like, get the therapist. And she comes over and she gives me the phone. She's like, call your mum. And I'm like, what do
Oh,
you
really?
mean? So she knew exactly what to do. She knew
Wow.
exactly how to help me 10 minutes before I had to go on. I spoke to my mum, cried all the tears, got it all out, boom, went on stage and did the best performance of my life, you
Crazy.
know? But that's the highs and lows of the entertainment industry. That's kind of normal. But the other stuff is not. The other stuff is not normal. The brainwashing, the control, the abuse, taking advantage of a child, then the child doesn't get to grow up the way that they should be nurtured.
For sure.
So for me, it was like that child growing up, going into fame, and then not having a backbone to really understand how to deal with pressure,
Yeah.
real emotional pressure from a massive machine of a record label.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, but it's also such an explosion of fame, right? Like when you sort of get to that top three and then the finals and all the rest of it, it's just like, man, your name is up in lights and everything that you've wished for, it's just, it's that crescendo that sort of all comes to, a good like explosion, a height at the end, and you're like, here I am, I've made it. And
Yeah, well, Here I Am was the winner
yeah,
single. That was the name of the song.
yeah, for sure.
And it's true, absolutely. And I loved that part of it. I
Mm.
really enjoyed it. I really loved singing to millions of people on television.
Sure.
I
But
really
I mean,
loved it.
that stage thing wasn't anything new to you because, some
No.
people like, I've never really performed in a live setting. So that's like they're a fish out of water. But you'd already been doing like cruise ships and like
Yes.
that kind, you did a lot of entertainment. So you had like a stack of like, your resume is pretty good up
I
that
sang a
point, right?
show just before I auditioned for Australian Idol with Kate Ceberano and Dannii Minogue,
Yeah,
and it
wow.
was at Hayman Island or Hamilton Island, one of those.
Hmm.
I think Bevan Adamsall was organising it, and I remember that day because Kate Ceberano said to me, "Natalie, why don't you go and get a record deal, get a manager, and get out there?"
Hmm.
And I was shy. I'm like, I don't know if I want to do that. I said, I don't know if I can do that. I didn't have the confidence.
Sure.
I had the confidence to go on stage and be me, but I didn't know if I had the confidence to do it on a really large scale with a big massive. Didn't even comprehend that. But
Mm.
she gave me the confidence that night, and she said, "You just got to do something, you know." And then the next day, I happened to see in the newspaper that they were, calling for people to audition. And I remember when I auditioned, they were all like, "How did we not know about this girl?"
Yeah.
I was hiding in the background, you know?
As a lot of artists do. I
Yeah.
mean, like even today, the landscape is super different to what it was even 10 years ago when Idol was in the forefront of things. I mean, it's just like it's night and day difference with social media, I guess. Like it's just such
It's a
a
different ball game.
yeah, it's just a different ball game. But I mean, how many talented people do you see like busking in the streets or just like at a local pub sort of thing? You're like, man, this guy's got talent,
Yeah.
or this girl can sing, and it's just like, man, what the fuck are you doing? But there's a lot of people like that. I guess they're just little hidden gems like yourself.
Yeah, until I wasn't anymore.
Yeah. If I can circle back to like, your abuser and things like that, I think like the thing that obviously pisses a lot of people off is just how brazen these people are. And then when it comes time to getting like your dues, so to speak, or like, their, um, like just getting the penalty that they deserve for the things that they did, it seems like it just is there's so many backdoors and loopholes and rocks for them to hide under until it's too late, or it's sort of like it gets watered down. Like I come from a Catholic upbringing, so my school was like rife with pedophilia, like my high school.
Oh,
And Wollongong, I don't know if you know this, Wollongong has got a super dark satanic underground, like underbelly. It's a
Wollongong.
Wollongong is a haven for stuff like this, and it's been in and out of the news and papers for my entire lifetime, right? And it's
Wow.
yeah, our Lord Mayor, it's priests and like for example, I come from the Christian college, so it's like Brother Evans, all that kind of stuff. If you look up Frank Arkell, Brother Evans, what was his name, Tony Bevan, like all of these people are just prolific
Mm,
pedophiles running rackets from Wollongong to King's Cross and all the rest of it. It's pretty wild.
wow.
So, but a lot of victims never really, their cases never really saw the light of day because they would get a lot of hush money. People would just sort of get paid out,
Yes. Or
like all of that
killed.
kind of stuff.
If you
Yeah,
mention it,
or
I know
taken out. Yeah,
stories.
exactly
I
right.
know
100%.
stories. I've heard stories, dark, dark stories about
Yeah.
parents who have tried to be whistleblowers and things and gone to the police and then boom, they're gone.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, like the Wood Royal Commission is a really good example of how corrupt, you know, well, they used to be called QCs. What are they now? KCs. All right. So,
Oh, okay.
like they're they're high court judges, they're police
Yes.
officers, they're politicians, they're prime ministers. Like it runs really deep in
Yes.
Australia. And I don't
It
think
does.
anyone who scratches the surface of this would just get exposed to like, for want of a better word, to just how much of it goes on.
Yeah.
But they just seem to like always get away with it. And I don't know
It's true.
exactly what that answer is, but I think part of it is what you've done is be strong enough and vulnerable enough, and have enough courage to be a voice for others and then encourage others to come forward, because
Yeah, and
I just think
also
like a lot of people are suffering in silence, right?
absolutely. I personally, for me, the reason I talk about it is so younger people can hear it and
Yeah.
parents can hear it. And then it just kind of plants a seed to be more aware and understand that it does happen in the music industry, and just to be really, really careful. I wouldn't say don't go in the music industry,
Sure.
but at the same time, the music industry and the school, I mean, I homeschool my son, but
Mm,
like the schools, especially the Catholic schools, but it happens everywhere. It happens in public schools too.
mm.
Everything needs to change. And it does start with our voices, by speaking and using our voices and speaking the truth. Just speaking
Yeah.
the truth and our own testimonies in life. That's all we can do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, eventually like truth comes to light. Like it's just you can see it now, and I talk to this a lot with particular guests, because I feel like there is a kind of quickening in terms of this sort of people becoming awake and aware to all the atrocities of the world, and kind of how the world is run,
Yeah.
and then realizing that your voice is pretty much like your number one asset. And it's one of the things that like I've said for many years is like, I'm not a singer, although I'd love to learn how to sing, right? But it's like, um, I feel like my voice is my number one asset. Whether
Yes.
I'm presenting or whether I'm doing a podcast or whether I'm
Communicating.
running a workshop or whatever it may
Yep.
be, this is my number one thing.
Yes.
I may not be that articulate. I may not know that many words. I may, and ah a lot. I may swear a lot, whatever it may be. But like, this is how I communicate, and this is
Yeah.
how I'm effective
Yes.
in the way that I relate to people,
Yes.
and those sorts of things. So I think when people are now starting to realize that, your voice is like, you need to speak up even when you're shivering in your boots. You need to speak up.
It
And
is
I know that
true.
there are dire consequences. Like, even like just doing this,
I
it
know.
gets flagged. Like
I
it's sort of,
know.
yeah, it's
Totally.
crazy.
It's
Like
ridiculous.
it's freedom of
I
speech
know.
is an
That's
absolute.
why I have Jesus. I have Jesus. And that's my, that's where I go,
Yeah,
because,
love it.
we all need a safe place
For sure.
just to
Yeah,
release the fear.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, um, whatever works. Like, I'm not gonna, whatever method you get there to that place. As long as you're not harming anyone else or yourself, like I'm all for it. Just come along board like with me. It's like through COVID and things like that. I used to say jokingly, like, I fucking can't carry all of yous, you know what I mean? Like, eventually you're gonna have to sort of step up. I'm pretty strong, but I can, there's only so many mooring lines I can carry at any one time or drag through the sand. Eventually you guys are gonna have to sort of like walk out the front. But I think there are a lot of people now coming to the forefront and actually having the courage to speak up. And I think,
Yeah.
it's sort of the more people start to, I guess, just get their own sense of like, well, if Natalie can do it, like I can do it, So let me just say
Yeah,
one little thing.
absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a good way to look at it, actually.
Yeah, for sure. So when you won Australian Idol and then you got your record with Sony, you mentioned before that like because this all sort of come brewing up again and then you sort of re-traumatized and then it sounds like you just sort of like pulled the pin with Sony at that point, right? But then you sort of fast forward and you were back again with The Voice. So
Yeah.
what's the
So
time
the
difference between?
timeline was
Yeah,
quite a lot,
yeah,
because it was 2007 when I won, and
hmm,
then I stayed with Sony for 2 years, and then I left and I went overseas and I became an independent artist.
got it.
I changed my name to Nellie Bell
Hmm.
because I didn't want anybody to know me from the internet. I wanted to find out who I was again, because I felt like I'd lost so much of myself and I didn't know. I became really like, oh, I have to do this album now and it has to be successful, and Oh,
Sure.
and it was so much pressure, and I was getting into this trauma, and it was just too much.
Hmm.
So when I left, and I changed my name, the music never left me. It's like I couldn't stop doing music.
Sure.
So I ended up signing a deal over in London, and I recorded a couple of albums over there under the name Nellie Bell. And then I started learning about spirituality, and I became a Buddhist, and then Hare Krishna, and then I did all these different things.
Wow.
And I started doing a lot of chanting, and I realized at that point when I was doing a lot of meditation that I needed to be Natalie Gauci again, but I just didn't know how to. Like, who was she? Like, where
Mm.
was the innocence in all of this again? And where was the fun and the laughter and the joy and the peace and the. It was all just ego. Everything was just all about the ego after when I got signed to Sony. And so I had to remove that. And I didn't. It took me 7 years. Yeah. So after 5 years of being Nellie Bell, I realized, how am I going to release this music? No one's going to know who Nellie Bell is
Right.
because Facebook was out, and I wasn't
Sure.
even on Facebook. I was off everything. I didn't even have a TV for all that time.
Got it.
I just wanted human connection, and just for to be reminded of who I was and how people saw me without the fame. That was
Mm.
really important to me. And it's really crazy how life works, because even as Nellie Bell, I was getting asked to do interviews, asked to do press releases, asked to do, and I'm like, okay, so maybe there's nothing wrong with fame. Maybe that's my destiny, just to be that. Maybe that's what God wants me to be. I just
Mm.
need to be that, be happy within myself. So that's the journey that I went on. And then it wasn't till I went to America, I became a psychic medium. And then I went to do, then I went to America. And then I met a man, I got married, and then had a baby. Right?
Um,
All of that before The Voice, all of that life. Okay, that's another book, another story.
for sure.
And then I realized I can't have a baby in America. I want to go back to my family. I want to go back to be with my mum, and
Mm.
how am I going to raise a child in another country without my family there? I couldn't see it. So I ended up back here on my own, as a single parent, and I got a call from The Voice. And I
Sure.
thought, why not? Like, I haven't sung for a while. I know God doesn't want me to do psychic mediumship. That's not my destiny. And God said to me, I need to do music. And I'm like, okay, this could be a good opportunity for me to sing again. And it was.
Mm.
It got me back on the map, back here, and I got to work with Guy Sebastian, and it was really good for me to do that.
Mm.
So, yeah, it was the start of my back to my career again.
Mm.
Yeah.
What's Guy like?
I think, I think he's changed a lot. I don't know him personally. I've only known him from acquaintance, hi, hello. And then when I worked with him, he was really passionate about the music. But
Mm.
I didn't feel a soul connection in where that was with The Voice. I felt like it's a script, and
Sure.
we're all getting told what we're doing,
Yeah, yeah. A lot of it's curated. Yeah, for
and there
sure.
was another sex offending assault happening with the young kids, and
Oh, really?
yes. And then I ended up having to voice that, and I told Mark Holden, and then we did a podcast about it. Then Channel 9 got involved, and then it came out, and it was all a mess.
I didn't know that.
And then I did this big article in the Australian paper saying The Voice has no soul, and
Oh,
you know, crazy times.
wow. Yeah, you're quite a disruptor when it comes to
I
yeah,
am. I
changing the pattern.
am. But I stick up for the kids.
Yeah,
I stick up for the kids. I wasn't going to let that go.
yeah, that's
A
crazy.
lot of artists do. They don't say anything.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess. you can kind of see why as well, because it's like anything. I mean, I always bring up COVID because it's like, it's such a good example of mind fuckery, right? Where
COVID, can I just say something? COVID
yeah,
was the biggest event, global event, that completely changed the world forever.
absolutely. Yeah.
That's why we go back to COVID.
Yeah, but it was such a psychological warfare. I mean, they literally used everything that was near and dear to you and held you over a barrel and basically said, for the good of yourself and your grandmother and the country, like you need to do this. Otherwise, you just won't be able to like function in society, right? So, I mean, in the music industry, they're kind of like, I don't want to speak out because it's going to wreck my total career trajectory. I can't risk all of this, so I'm just going to stay quiet. And a lot of people during the so-called
True.
pandemic kind of just stayed, flew under the radar, because they're like, I'm not going to
Yes,
speak out. I'm just going to do whatever they tell me because I feel like all of this, what seemingly would be, metaphorically real, but it's not real, right? It's kind of like,
correct.
yeah. So I
Yes.
get why they don't say anything, but okay, so let's go from there. So when obviously this didn't end well because
Well, it was fine. It didn't really do anything. I was already off the show by that time.
right, okay.
So I didn't, I wasn't trying to get at anybody. I was just telling the truth, you
Yeah.
know? And I was trying to protect the kids. And I was trying to make a point as well that it shouldn't go unheard.
Mm,
So, and it didn't go unheard. And it really did do some positive things. And Mark Holden supported me on it.
wow,
So
that's
it was
great.
really awesome. He is such a great man.
Mm,
And so him and I are friends. And what happened after that? I then got some funding to record an album and write an album. So I ended up recording, sorry, Pictures of Mars.
hmm
And I ended up doing some shows. And I think because it was COVID, I did them all online. And I did a couple on the Sunshine Coast, but nothing too crazy because you couldn't really do much, for that
Yeah.
time. But then we ended up moving to the coast, like more towards, like, the border
hmm
of Queensland. And I ended up getting all the shows that people were sick during COVID. So I ended up doing most of the shows that the other singers couldn't do.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was really liberating for me
I bet.
because I've never really been in rooms where there were people all wearing masks and I didn't wear a mask during COVID. I was pretty free during that time, but I was pretty quiet. I was pretty quiet. I
Yeah.
had a little boy to look after, and I was pretty quiet. I just wanted to lay low and do the work that I felt like God was giving me to do, and just keep going with my music. So I
Mm,
kept recording and kept working on stuff, and recorded an album called Brand New Day. And then by that time, COVID was kind of lifting, so I was able to fly to Gosford to record the record. And so a lot of good things happened to me during COVID with my music that I
mm,
wasn't expecting. And I started to really just, yeah, I bought a house, and yeah, I did some really awesome stuff.
wow.
And I actually, I talk about my faith a lot because I did have a massive moment during COVID where, because I did the psychic mediumship and everything, I am a spiritual person, and I did have an encounter with Jesus, and then kind of just gave my life to Jesus. And in that moment, everything kind of healed from me. All the trauma of all the abuse just left me, in that time. So, yeah, it was such an amazing time for me, just as a person, as a human,
Yeah.
a healing. And now I feel like my voice is so much better and stronger, and yeah, I feel like I've got all this music now that I can release, and
Fantastic.
yeah,
I think that experience of COVID, which you rightfully put as like the most monumental thing that's ever happened in our lifetime and probably, hopefully, will ever be. as never be as bad as that. Um, it definitely did rock a lot of people's core beliefs and expose you for who you are. Like in a sense of
True.
if you were well, let's just speak for my journey. My
Yeah.
journey was if if I had a perception of who I was in the public eye or who I thought I was, and I knew unconsciously there was parts of me that I could easily hide from others because it was just easy to not reveal that
Yes.
side of me. So only a small few people got to see the true me, and it wasn't nice, right? So it's like it wasn't like I was hiding this pure essence of myself that I was afraid for people to see. It was the deep, dark demons and all of that shit, right? So COVID
Is
just
that
like,
because you were angry about what was happening, or
no, no, no.
no?
It was more to do with like all of this stuff that much the same way as you can relate to a trauma response. I believe COVID elicited a trauma response for everyone, right?
Yes.
And whatever that was, to whatever magnitude it rose, is
Mm-hmm.
whatever it was. So your own individual experience. It could be you were abused as a child. For me, that had an element to it, but also just this false facade and this vibrato and this ego that I was like a business guy in my hometown and well known. But the moment I started to speak out, it was like, if you want to call it God or the universe or whatever, they're like, oh, so now you've got the balls to speak out. So we better just like strip you bare of all of your, you know, like the worst parts of you and just expose all of it. So anything that could get dug up got dug up, and anything that was
Wow.
within my marriage come to, it bubbled to the surface, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
business wise, monetarily, emotionally, relationally, like all that kind of stuff just exploded. So
Wow.
everything kind of like capitulated and collapsed to the point where you're just as cliche as it sounds, it's like, well, fuck, if I'm at my worst and the rock bottom and I've got $10 to my name and $1 million worth of debt sort of thing, well then, what's the worst that could happen? I might as well just build myself back up to the
Yes.
version that I think would be like the more congruent to how I now want to live this next do-over opportunity. So it's like, oh,
So you
people,
got to breaking point.
yeah, just got to the breaking point. So, and I know a lot of people checked out as a result of getting to the breaking point and like you were saying before, never really truly discovering who they were at their core, or even asking the question like,
Mm-hmm.
what do I value? What's
Yes.
what's the most important thing or things or in my life, and how can I live my life more congruently to those values and living in alignment, sort of
Yes.
not having a false vibrato, but just actually being more genuine and just simple, like everything kind of like all of that lust for things and
Yes.
visiting homes and
Just
whatever it might
clean
be.
that. Yes. I'm
So,
just cleaning that.
I
So I noticed there's like dust on there. Yeah, keep going, keep going. It's all right.
never had a guest clean their
Sorry.
there's a first for everything. That's right. You remind me of my partner, Chanel. She would probably do something like that. I'm just gonna clean this. There's a spot that I missed. It's like, oh, God love her. Anyway, yeah, so I think like you just sort of get to the point where you're like, you know what, fuck it. Like everyone knows who I am now. They have their own opinions. And as much as I've been afraid of people thinking ill of me
Mm,
and afraid of what that would do for my reputation or for like it affected me, my three children, like everyone knew who I was
wow.
by the end of COVID. Like it was, and it's a small town, so it's not
Who
like
are you? Are
everyone.
you a criminal?
Yeah, I have a past life that I'd like to dig into.
Wow.
Yeah, so anyway, but my point being is like I think a lot of people had that sort of existential crisis, and it's natural to see why that you would turn to God or turn to a higher power because you sort of had to surrender, and I think like
Absolutely.
for
It's out of
me,
your control, isn't it?
well, and control is like something that I thought I had. I mean, I used to preach, you are the author of your own story, and like you just gotta
Not anymore.
write your pages, and the government's like, actually, we control everything that you do, and so it was just all of that kind of exposed that you had belief systems that just come crashing down. So when you believe something to be true, and then it's just like it's untrue, so it
Yes.
undoes like everything that you just learned. So
Yes.
it's almost like from birth to now has
Yes.
just been like undone and torn apart. So I
Ah,
think
I
for a lot of
mean, I
people,
mean,
that's super
look at the
confronting.
history. Look at our history.
Yeah,
We could
sure.
do a whole podcast just on that. 10 podcasts,
Absolutely.
you know?
Yes, that's right. I mean, it would, I think people would just be absolutely shattered. But what I like about faith, I don't subscribe to Jesus Christ and things like that. But I do, I don't also deny that there's some creation at some point, or a
Mm-hmm.
creator at some point. And I also don't deny that there's a higher power. You know,
Yeah.
I don't deny the synchronicities of how, like, if we use, say, music, for example, just how vibration works,
Oh,
you know,
100%.
and how energy works. And like,
Mm-hmm.
all about this, it's just
Yeah.
like, we are living in a resonance
We
field,
are
right?
matter. We are matter. We are
We're
frequencies.
just waves of energy that are just vibing,
Yes.
at a particular wavelength. And then we're all this melting pot of like juicy vibes, right? So it's just, when you get to that level, you're like, you know what? Um, I cannot deny that there's something else going on that I can tap into from time to time and sort of, I don't know, bath in the essence of whatever that is. And then every now and then you kind of got to like make sure that at the end of the day, we're still paying bills. We've got to switch the lights on, we've
That's
got to run the
right.
podcast, we've got to, but we
Yes.
also got to live to our truth as bastardized that sounds. Is like, we've got to do our thing.
Yeah.
So yours is like music. And I love the fact that you've been able to discover that and at such a young age and still like tap into it,
Yeah.
through a labyrinth of like obstacles.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely, I look back and I think, gosh, how did I even survive? And I even wrote a song called I Survived when I was asked to be an ambassador for the National Surviving Foundation. And they work with survivors of sexual assault, sexual abuse.
Yeah.
And so I thought, oh, maybe I'll write a song. And then the song that came out was probably one of the best songs I've ever written because it just
Wow.
came from such a deep place.
Mm,
And
so good.
yeah, so the music doesn't ever leave me. It just grows in different ways and progresses as I progress and learn
Mm,
and grow.
yeah.
It's a part of me. It's always going to be a part of me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what's beautiful about music from my own experience, even just listening to certain tunes and certain vibrations, like it's just something that elicits quite like vulnerable emotions. You can listen to music and just smile from ear to ear, and then you can also listen to
True.
music and bawl your eyes out. Like
That's right.
there's so many things that can come from it.
Yes.
Um, and like back to resonance and all that kind of stuff, like humming, chanting,
Yes.
all of this is like, sends signals through your teeth and your bones and all the rest of it. Like
Yeah.
I'm a drummer, right? So I
Oh, we
am
know all
going back
about.
to like, these days I haven't been able to play the drums for quite a while, but I just remember being in my dad's band and playing the drums and just hearing like the thud of the bass drum and
Yeah,
certain tones and all that kind of stuff. And it just hits you right in the guts, right
it
in the
does. And that's
whole
where it should hit
plexus.
you. That's what I
Yeah,
always tell my when I teach my students. I'm like, if you're feeling it here, it's good. In your
yeah,
gut.
yeah. So I mean that anything creative like that, I think, whether you can sing a tune or hold a note or play an instrument, it's irrelevant. I think however you get to creation is like it's an essence that I think a lot of people
Well, it's
lose.
the creator. creation, you
Creation,
know?
that's
And I
it,
see, and I think giving birth, oh my gosh, it's like the biggest miracle in life,
isn't
you
it?
know, a child growing in your body. And I think, how could you not think that there's something else out there? You know, if something so miraculous can grow inside of my body,
Absolutely.
you know?
Have you ever just looked at your body? Like, have you ever
Yeah,
just like looked in the
I know, like
mirror,
the
like,
intestines and
yeah, it's
all
like,
the
look at the veins,
intricacies,
look
the
how these things
eyes.
work. Yeah, it's just unbelievable. You're like, man, how does this all come about?
It's
Right?
hard to believe. It's hard to
It
believe
is.
that a creator could just speak that into existence. It is.
Yeah, man. Like, we that's another 6 or 7 podcasts down the track. But before we get that, so what does your life look like now? What's sort of, I guess, getting that creative juices flowing, and how does it all look for you? How do you see your future in music and things like that?
Oh, I'm in a massive transition at the moment,
Hmm.
and I'm looking at building a talent school. And I do coaching online already, and I've been helping people with their voice so they can do podcasts and record meditations. And I've just been helping people use their voice basically.
Yeah,
And it's
nice.
all ages, all different things. I've got, you know, teenagers learning to sing, and
Mm,
it's very versatile. I'm very versatile.
mm.
So I've
Have
got
you have
that.
space for your coaching?
Sorry.
Are you fully booked out for that, or do you have space?
No, I've got space. Yeah, I've got some space. I always make sure
Cool.
I've got some space. Why do you
I,
want to do
I, I
some
want to learn to
coaching?
sing.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
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 well, I'll
absolutely.
happily. Yeah,
Maybe
you
you a
can
coach,
do some
maybe.
coaching. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
So, yeah, I do these
Listen to a thing that's a
packages.
little
So
bit.
I do like mentoring. So my thing is that I don't want to be the singing teacher where you have to
Yeah.
see me every week forever. It's like I'll give you the tools, and we do a
Right.
5 week course, and then we do the beginner part. I teach you the foundations of how to use your voice, how the voice works, all about the vibrations in the body, things like that.
Mm.
And then if you do, then you can just go up levels from there. So
Yeah,
once you
amazing.
learn how to do the vibrations of your voice and learn how to actually breathe properly and project and everything, then that's when the singing kind of comes into it. So
Yeah, perfect.
that's what I've been doing, and just releasing songs off my album, because I have an album called Brand New Day that's waiting to come out. And I've released 5 songs from the record, and I'm doing a concert in Adelaide on the 1st of November. And we're showcasing my songs, but also younger talent from another school called the Next Gen Studio Academy.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's what I'm doing.
That's amazing. Oh, look, you know what? It's been a very refreshing conversation to have with you. I'm really glad we connected, and yeah, we'll have to do this again. I think there's lots of different avenues to explore, but it's just been a pleasure to talk to you. So I just want to thank you for coming on the show and being so open as you have been, and I look forward to catching up with you again soon. Okay?
Yeah, thanks, Adrian. Thanks for having me. It's been awesome. Really good.
That's my
Likewise.
pleasure.
Likewise. Lots of
All right.
insightful
We're
things.
going to connect soon because I need a singing
Yeah.
coach. Okay, so
Yeah, all right. Well,
I'll
you just
talk to
let
you
me
offline.
know, and yeah, we'll do it. Sounds
Done.
good.
Awesome. All right, Natalie. Lovely to talk to
All
you.
right.
I'll see you soon.
All right, you too. You take care.
Bye now.
All right. See ya.